regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Let the record reflect Commissioners Soboroff, Madison, Figueroa Villa, Kim, and Saltzman are present, and we have a quorum. Number 1 on the agenda, Commission comments.
Commissioner Saltzman?
None this morning.
Commissioner Madison? Commissioner Kim? Sandra? Okay. I have a comment. I want to make a statement on the Ferguson verdict. 4 questions. What can the LAPD and the people of Los Angeles do to help show sympathy, compassion, and understanding for the family and friends of Michael Brown? Question number 2. What can the LAPD and the people of Los Angeles do to help assist Ferguson to rebuild their buildings, their community spirit, their community self-esteem, and their preventative programs in order to create a trusting and future positive relationship between the people and their law enforcement agencies? Question number 3. What can we do? What can the LAPD do to complete a thorough lessons learned analysis from the events in Ferguson and the decisions, both good and bad, that were made by their law enforcement departments and leaders? There seems to be plenty of both. And finally, what can the LAPD do to listen and engage with all of our diverse communities so something like this never, ever happens again in Los Angeles? We need to be proactive, implementing our on-body camera program. Philanthropy needs to be proactive and doubling down on programs to assist those who are underserved. And every single person in Los Angeles needs to be proactive to help this community and in its relationships with each other and with our department. As president of this commission, I pledge our commitment to help to continue to do anything and everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief Beck.
Morning, Chief.
Good morning, Commissioners. You know, I would also like to make a comment on the incidents of last night in the city of Los Angeles. You know, as we all watched the violence that unfolded after the decision in Ferguson, we also saw a number of people take to the streets in Los Angeles to express their concerns over that decision. They did so in the vast majority in a lawful and peaceful way. And I believe that because they did it in a lawful and peaceful way, that their message was much stronger and that their message resonated with people throughout the city and county of Los Angeles. And that is the goal of the expression of First Amendment, is to get your point across. And so I am very proud of the individuals that we worked so closely with in the preceding weeks to make sure that that message was strong and also that the message could be heard. And they did it in vast majority in a lawful and peaceful manner, and I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud of Los Angeles Police Department for its show of restraint and its showing of understanding the nature of a national discussion like this one. On to my normal report. Overall crime in the city of Los Angeles is still down, almost 3% compared to last year, and just under 6% compared to 2012. Property crime is down in every category, almost 6%. We still struggle with aggravated assaults, primarily due to an increase in domestic violence, which makes our total violent crime an increase by 10.3%. However, that increase is tempered by a reduction in homicides and a reduction in not only shots fired, but in number of victims shot. We also have an increase in rapes in the city of Los Angeles, 11% compared to last year, but less than 1% compared to 2012. Part 1 crime is down in 3 of our 4 bureaus. The only bureau with an increase is Central Bureau. Gang-related crime is down in 3 of our 4 bureaus. The only bureau with an increase is Valley Bureau. Gang-related crime is down 6.5% as compared to last year and 21% compared to 2012. Categorical use of force incidents are down almost 20%. And officer-involved shootings, which I know is particularly of interest due to the national discussion over the legitimacy of police shootings, is down 36.6% compared to last year, and is at at least a 5-year low, in that we've only had 26 so far this year, as compared to 41 last year. Traffic collisions have increased slightly during this year. We have a 3% increase in total traffic collisions. The good news to that is that serious traffic collisions, those that involve injury or fatality, are down. So while the total is up, the serious injuries are down. DUI-related traffic collisions are down just at 1%. Hit and runs in total are about flat from last year. There's a 0.4% increase, but serious hit and runs, those that involve injuries or fatalities, are down significantly, down by about 40 over last year. Motor vehicle versus pedestrian accidents are up very slightly, 0.4% as compared to 2013. But again, serious injuries, those that involve hospitalization or fatalities, are down. Bicycle-involved traffic collisions are down just under 11%, and serious bicycle-involved traffic collisions are down dramatically, with 101 incidents compared to 136 last year. We have 9,921 sworn personnel, 2,726 civilian personnel. We have almost 500 reserve police officers, 372 specialist volunteers, 63 chaplain counselors, and 5,445 cadets. Over 700 graduated this past weekend. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. We do have one public comment card. We have Mr. Herman.
Good morning, residents of Los Angeles. I want to thank you for keeping the control in our city safe without any problems. But today's problems in our city have to do with bad involvement of our officers. Are they adequately trained for the situation that can prevail, such as Ferguson? Is Chief Beck taking the time to ensure the public that the hit and runs in the city of Los Angeles are no longer taking the lives of civilians and innocent people today? How many times have we become the hit and run capital of the world? Just in Boyle Heights, we heard of an incident of a man whose car was taken from him. And as a result, he became the issue of a hit and run to acquire his car back. Let us not all take this offense. Let the items go. Your life is more precious. So the unthinkable of today's situation should not be a result of Los Angeles to consider. It should always be in the back burners of how we as law enforcement and as a commission to take control of our city without severe injury, are we going to become collateral, uncontrolled? And whose liability and whose cost? That of the civilian persons in the city of Los Angeles, all your Angelinos. So with regards to Mr. Beck's saying, let's keep up good law enforcement, I say to you, Batman.
Item number 3 on the agenda, the report of the Executive Director, Mr. Tiefenk.
Morning, Mr. President, members of the Commission. Just a few administrative items. There will be no Commission meeting next Tuesday, December 2nd, due to the short week this week with the Thanksgiving holiday. Also, there will be no meeting due to the holiday break, December 23rd and December 30th. We will have 2 meetings the remainder of the year after this meeting, December 9th and December 16th. And also for the agenda, due to unavailability of department staff, we will be continuing items 8C, E, F, and G to the meeting of December 9th. And there is a correction on the recommended action on item 8H. The corrected action should be to transmit to the mayor and city council. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We do have one public comment card. We have Mr. Herman.
Mr. Tiefenk, good morning. And thank you for the consideration of the points and bullets that we have to speak about at City Council today under the item 8 agenda. Is this the involvement with the City of Los Angeles versus Patel, where we, the taxpayers, are paying for outside legal services? I wouldn't know. But to hold my time and give Mr. Tiefenk full attention to cooperate with this commission, I'm going to keep it low-key this morning, as we were all under the unthinkable situation that occurred last night in Ferguson. I'll hold my time to 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you. We're on item number 4, the report of the Inspector General, Mr. Bustamante.
Thank you, Commissioners. I have no items this morning.
We do have one public comment card. Mr. Herman.
Well, would it be timely to say that the Inspector General, should be more involved in the crisis of the brutality towards minorities? This is not an issue of racism about African Americans. Did I say that politically correct? Or what about the minorities, illegal Latinos that are here, that were promised? So I'm saying to you, an unarmed civilian for the chaos and violence, what is your point of view, Inspector General? When do we get involved and prevent the crisis of the Ferguson? My sympathy to the Brown family, for your son Michael, the 6'6", 292-pound Hulk Hogan gentleman who passed away due to a number of bullets. Not 1, not 2, and not a triad of 3, but a number of bullets. Six times he was shot. 4 hours he lied there.
Mr. Herman.
I'm addressing to the Inspector General. And 2 hands up, Inspector General. So let's not allow this, Mr. Bustamante, to go on and happen in the future in the city of Los Angeles. We're a growing metropolis. We don't want our city, our communities burned due to an indistinguishable act. KJLH 102.3 would like to hear your point of view on this. And thank you, and my condolences.
Okay, we're now on item number 5. Item number 5 consists of information items and filed items relative to noise variances and special event permits submitted for the period ending November 21st, 2014. Item number 6, presentations. Do we have any presentations?
None today.
Thank Thank you. Item number 7, consent agenda items. These items are considered to be routine and non-controversial, upon which the board is provided with adequate information for approval without inquiry or discussion. Would a commissioner wish to pull an item 7A through 7H?
No, move approval with thanks to the donors.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. We're now on item number 8, regular agenda items. Would a commissioner wish to pull an item as special for discussion, 8A, B, D, or H?
I would like to hold item B, 8B.
Okay.
So I think I may have this right. I will move approval of items 8A, 8D, and 8H. And we're
Yes,
continuing C, E, F, and G.
Are we continuing C also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we will go to item number 8B.
So it's just B and D left, correct?
Just B,
Just B? Okay.
Just B.
Okay.
That would be
Just this
Inspector
one.
General's report dated November 14, 2014, relative to the employment litigation audit follow-up report as set forth.
Good morning, Commissioners. Seated
Morning.
before you from my office is Assistant Inspector General Jim Willis and also Special Investigator Jonathan Oda. As this commission will recall, that in 2013, my office performed an audit of employment litigation practices within the department. From that audit, there were a series of recommendations that were adopted by the commission, and the directions were given to the department on 7 categories. Recently, this commission has asked me to evaluate the department's actions for each of these 7 categories, and we've looked into each of those, often reviewing the available information and having multiple discussions with the department on these items. The report sets out what we have learned and what the department is doing for each of the 7 categories, and in this report we make one recommendation as to the recommendations that were, the directives that were adopted by this commission, that the department routinely brief the commission in quarterly time period as to its continued progress in these areas. And subject to your questions, I'm here and my staff are available to answer anything you may have.
Questions?
I mean, I guess I'd just say from a general observation, it appears as though, Mr. Inspector General, that you feel that the cooperation going on is satisfactory, and the process that's in place is one that we're counting on will have a satisfactory outcome?
Yes, I think the deadlines, I think the effort, the continued cooperation between the department and my staff, I think that this is all very positive. My understanding is that, and I don't want to speak out of school, but I think Mr. Arif Alkan will have an additional member sometime in the future that'll probably help streamline some of the issues. But I think with the deadlines and everything I set forth, I think that we're on the right track.
Good morning, Commissioners. Arif Ali Khan, Special Assistant for Constitutional Policing. Just so I understand, Commissioner Madison, were you talking about cooperation with the IG or with the City Attorney's Office?
Oh, I'm sorry, all entities, that the entities that would involve the reduction in the numbers of litigations and settlements, everybody's working together.
Certainly. So since I joined the LAPD and took over this role about 8.5 months ago, we've made it a priority to coordinate with all of the entities involved, in particular the City Attorney's Office, because obviously they're the most essential in defending litigation, providing us advice on a variety of issues. We routinely coordinate with them. We have and are in the process of formalizing certain types of meetings with them. I think it's fair to say our relationship has improved significantly, even from the time when I started. And we are in constant communication with them and coordinating on a number of issues. The chief has made that a priority, and it obviously makes a lot of sense. Also, we've been cooperating with the IG, especially on the follow-up audit. We provided a significant amount of information. We drafted a 30-page status memo with the detailed plans that we have to come in full compliance with Executive Mayoral Directive 9, as well as many things that we're doing above and beyond that.
Is it premature to ask whether we are trending towards a reduction in the numbers of litigations and then the outcomes of the settlements?
Yes. But
yes, it's premature. Yes, we are trending.
I think it is premature. One of the challenges, even in that situation, is what are the metrics of success, which I'm sure everybody has considered. The number of lawsuits filed and also the judgments that may come from a jury are a difficult metric of success simply because of the variability involved. Anyone can file a lawsuit, and then judgments, especially jury verdict judgments, are subject to a lot of variability. Our approach, and I mentioned this a bit before in our sort of paradigm shift on risk management, is to really work on the prevention side, and hopefully that would yield fewer at least successful lawsuits, but I definitely think it's a little bit early to know. And there are many things that we need to implement that are mentioned in the Inspector General's report that will take some time and then some time to hopefully yield positive results.
The previous audit, 4 of the commissioners were not on board yet. That was July 2013, and so there are a number of recommendations that were made, and I understand that was also previous to when you came on board, Mr. Alcott. And so now there are sort of a number of deliverables as to the implementation of these recommendations. 3 to 6 months, most of them to be implemented 3 to 6 months. But then July 2013 was the previous audit. My question is whether any of these recommendations have begun to be put in place. So as an example, when we first came on board, we did receive a description of the employee mediation program, and I'm wondering if there are any sort of preliminary observations about the potential for success of those kinds of programs, and whether the department is optimistic about that prevention tool.
Yeah, I want to tack onto your question because it'll have the same answer. We're spending, almost $1 million a month on employee versus employee litigation. That's a lot of money. That's be a lot of additional overtime that I'd like to see that money go to. And one of the things, as the commissioner just mentioned, that we talked about that seems to work are these mediation programs. And there has been, before you got here and now that you're here, I think that there's some movement in that. But this involves not just our discussion, but it involves an agreement with the league. And there was there wasn't an agreement on meet and confer on this. And I wonder if that bottleneck has been cleared up so we can actually make some progress in getting this program implemented.
Certainly. So soon after I started, I obviously became aware of a proposal by the Police Protective League in conjunction with Mr. Bustamante of a formal mediation program that's written, and I've reviewed it, which talks about potentially using mediation as an alternative to personnel complaints and other types of litigation. Since that time, I've looked at that. We've had some meetings with leadership with the Police Protective League to go over the details. I think there are a lot of unanswered questions about that program. And we are continuing to consider that, and I think it has to be considered as one of the elements of an alternative dispute resolution program for the department, and being one of the options. And obviously when I came in under the direction of the chief, and something that I think all of you have endorsed, was to take a fresh look at all of the things that we're doing with respect to risk management, and this would be one of them. I am optimistic. So as part of that effort, my staff has been doing quite a bit of research with other police departments, other public agencies about their mediation, conflict resolution, conciliation programs. And in particular, I myself and my staff met with the director of the Strauss Institute at Pepperdine University It's an internationally renowned alternative dispute resolution program. They provide advice and consulting to everybody from the International Court in The Hague to small police departments and small government agencies. We had them review the mediation proposal, but we also had a very extensive discussion on what are the different parts along the spectrum where we need to have different types of alternatives to a formalized process. What I came away from that is the importance of conflict resolution at the earliest stage, which really is the supervisors and command staff, and how to deal with conflicts that they identify or even conflicts that they have with particular personnel. So we're exploring with them, trying to bring them in, look at our training materials, and try to enhance that. I only bring that up, we're still in development with that, but to answer your question, Commissioner Kim, am I optimistic? Yes. Do I know precisely what I would recommend that we do? Not at this time. I think we have to look at alternative dispute resolution options at every stage of a conflict. The proposal that's before that we are discussing is fairly, it's formalized, and it's fairly far along the opportunity to try to actually resolve the conflict, which is fine, but that's something that we need to look at as a comprehensive program. And Commissioner Soboroff, you had mentioned about the meet and confer.
Yeah.
So the department's position that any specifics regarding that, since it is a formal agreement with the league, would have to go through all the particular labor requirements,
Right.
Which is why I think there's some issues that would be better discussed in closed session. But we are interested in pursuing that and working out details and see if that's a viable option, as well as other options. I don't think we want to put all our eggs in one basket, especially if it's something that's much further down the line of a conflict that could ultimately turn into litigation. Hopefully that answers both of your questions.
Other questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Saltzman.
I have a comment and then I guess 4 questions. First, I want to thank you, Mr. Alican, and certainly thank the Inspector General's staff for what is significant change from what we've seen before on this issue, which is there does actually seem to be some progress being made, and there does actually seem to be some healthy communication between the department and the Inspector General on this issue, and with improvement with the city attorney, and I appreciate that. I think that was a major effort from both of those entities. I also appreciate you're talking about this as a priority. I note that on page 2, the report says it's among the department's highest priorities. And there was a reference, Commissioner Kim referred back to the July 13 action of the commission, and I'll come back to that on one of the issues. But I believe this is a priority issue. I think it clearly was for the former commission, and I think it is for this commission. And given the responses to the audit, it seems to me the next 6 months are going to be crucial. There's much in this report which is reminiscent of prior reports. And in this report, there are references to what's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months. And so I just point out that it's clear to me from this report, if this is a priority and we're taking it seriously, given the responses in the report, the report that we see in a quarter and then definitely 6 months from now, I'm hoping we'll have additional progress in it, and I'm looking forward to that. I do have a few questions. On page 6, so this is page 6 of the audit. At the top, the first paragraph, I'd like to try to understand this better. There's a sentence, the second sentence, which ends up with the department does not want to emphasize entries that may capture information designated as lessons learned. And I'd just like to understand better what's going on there. The purpose, you say I think very clearly in the beginning about what the purpose of this effort, which is to refrain from repeating mistakes and or behaviors that typically result in judgments adverse to the city. And each time we've talked about this, we've talked about an effort by the department to learn lessons and then change the behavior that has brought about the result in the first place. So I'm trying to understand then on page 6, what's going on there.
Certainly. I think this sentence may not be entirely, it is slightly out of context. Perhaps I can say that. In the sense is, this was, what the discussion was with the Inspector General's office was that CLIS is the new system that is now up and running to capture and track cases. In that system, there is a text field that can capture additional information, including lessons learned. My concern was that many of these cases are complex. There are multiple factors, and in fact, you have to engage in some speculation, depending on the level of analysis you can do, whether what was the cause of the liability or what should have happened. My concern was putting that in one text field would be difficult. Now, we do believe in lessons learned, and in fact, we've actually done some research. There's a professor at UCLA who's written extensively on lessons learned in police litigation, who we've actually met with and consulted. And we are capturing and trying to learn those lessons in real time as we handle the litigation. We are also looking at, in discussions with our IT bureau, about using the existing system to also retain documents that would contain some of the lessons learned. So, for example, for every case, especially those that go to the City Council for approval and settlement, there is a closed case summary that is done by the department in collaboration with the City Attorney's Office that talks about a variety of things within the litigation. There's also submitted by the City Attorney's Office in consultation with us corrective actions that need to be taken, and having those documents in the system. So I think this is I don't mean to speak for the Inspector General, but from my perspective, I think this is a bit out of context. And it was really referring to the text field within CLIS and speculating with that or trying to condense it into one paragraph when you have something that's fairly complex as to why and what needs to be learned. But we are in discussions with IT to be able to upload those other documents and associate them with a particular case file. So if we did need to go back to a case and look at, okay, what were the corrective actions, as well as my office, my immediate staff will be collecting and is collecting all the closed case summaries and corrective actions for our own tracking purposes.
So tell me if I'm correct, and based on what you're saying, two things. One, my understanding of the earlier audit was by the Inspector General was there was great difficulty in reviewing issues because the case summaries were essentially unavailable. And if I understand you correctly, that will not be a problem going forward.
I don't believe, I think it wasn't the case summaries, I think it was some of the older case files that may have been stored away. We have full access to any case files. I understand even previously some of the cases that were cited, the department was able to get those files. I think what this new system will enable us to do is to capture that electronically as opposed to having to go and get out of storage the entire case file and then glean from that.
I appreciate that. I'm going to ask the Inspector General because in the past, your predecessor, Mr. Chaleff, said exactly what you just said. We have access to all the case files, and the Inspector General told us that in fact, when the Inspector General asked to see the case files, that the Inspector General was told by the department that there was not access to them. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand this clearly. I'm not trying to relive the history. I just want to understand where we are today and going forward.
I'm not in a position necessarily to do that, but I do know, as I know that was identified in the prior audit, and from talking to my staff and Mr. Chaleff, at some point those case files were accessed and brought to the department. They were made available.
Thank you.
I think looking forward, though, we have, in my experience, we have had no difficulty accessing any of the case files, obviously, of any of the pending. We're hoping that as we're taking those lessons learned, and with the closed case summaries and the corrective action reports, there's no need to go back into a case that's in storage. We have full communication and access that goes between both the city attorney and our office.
Great. I'd just like to hear from the Inspector General. Thank you.
Commissioner, just to probably back up a little bit and shed light as far as the comments regarding the CLIS-2 field and being out of context. I think we include Mr. Alican's concerns in the follow-up sentence that talks about the department's concerns that such entries may be insufficient to properly record and analyze the complexities of litigation and the underlying issues. Our point in that report was simply that there's no mechanism within that database to actually record the information, but we do go forward and list in the following paragraph all the items that Mr. Alican says will be used to capture those lessons learned and to analyze that. So I think that the CLS and the department's position is quite clear on that. They just believe that it's a more appropriate and easier and better managed system of looking at other areas to capture that information and process it. As far as the documentation and what was available and what wasn't available in there, I'd have to go back and look at the exact files to that. I think what's going to be most dispositive here is, the deadlines that the department has set and its follow through going forward, opposed to what was done in the past.
And so that's my second. I want to make sure I am understanding this, what you've said correctly. In the next paragraph, toward the end, the audit says, this review process for the closed case summaries, as well as the corrective action reports, will be fully institutionalized within the next 3 to 6 months. And so, if I understand correctly, that's the substantive response to the concern that I have, or the concern about whether it's in the data is being reported in a box or not. But the substance and answer is, within the next 3 to 6 months, you will have implemented the process that will be providing the information that we're looking for. Get that right?
If I understand, I think what we should say, the closed case summaries and the corrective action reports are being done. Okay. They're being done every day for every case now and into the future. What I believe this is referring to is that in terms of institutionalizing it is we're working with IT to incorporate the ability to upload those documents and associate them with a case, and we expect that to be done within the next build of the system, the next iteration and the updates that we're doing, and just a general range of 3 to 6 months, and hopefully sooner. I mean, they've been very responsive to our specific needs.
Thank you. I have 2 questions about the mediation program that we were discussing previously. One, you made a reference to discussing this with the board in closed session, and there's a similar reference in the report on page 7. I'm just curious when that will happen, what will bring that about. Is that something we could do? We could put on the agenda for the next couple of weeks if there's something to talk about, or what? Where are we in that process of it coming to us for discussion?
So I had a discussion with Mr. Tiefank and to schedule it. My personal preference is that if we could wait until either on or after December 16th when I come back to give the overall risk management strategy would be helpful, so that we can spend some time specifically talking about it, and you'll also see how it would fit in the overall strategy.
So we'll see that sometime in January?
Yes, and that could be to discuss any issues or concerns and take direction on particular issues from the Commission.
Great, thank you. Also on the mediation program, as positive as I am about the progress that's starting to be made, this is one area of the report that I found particularly disappointing. The reference was made to July 2013 when the Commission instructed the Department to move forward. The discussion had been going on at least a year and a half prior to that. And part of what prompted the Commission's action in July of 13 was a perception on the part of the commissioners that the Department was not moving very quickly on this. So it's been 16 months now since the Commission instructed the Department to do this as a priority. And your report says it's going to be another 9 to 12 months. And I appreciate your optimism about it and the work you've done on it. I simply want to reiterate, at least from my own personal views, that the sooner that can be done, the better. And the notion of it taking another 12 months to me seems unnecessary.
Well, Commissioner, in terms of specifics about the proposed program, once again, I'd request that we have that discussion in closed session that could better inform the Commission on the progress there. The comprehensive program that we're talking about within hopefully 9 to 12 months is not just a mediation, but the sort of full spectrum of conflict resolution and other alternative dispute resolution. So it's not simply one program. What we're hoping is that we have something comprehensive that involves education, prevention, those types of things within that time period.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate we can't get into the details, but I reiterate again that the mediation component is something that the Commission's talked about for a number of years, has set as a priority. The Department has set it as a priority. And although I appreciate your goal of having an overall program, I think if you can make progress on the mediation part, that would be good. And so,
yes, and if I could just make one point, because on page 7 it does say in the first full sentence, to date there is no mediation program or viable alternative. That's not entirely accurate. There's no formal mediation program in the sense of what was proposed, but the Department does do mediation through the Ombuds Office, and within the last 2.5 years or so, they've done over 100 mediations where they've either been requested or a commanding officer has gone in to deal with workplace environment issues. I don't have statistics of how many of those ultimately result in litigation. That's something that we'll analyze further, but the Department has been dedicated and will continue to be, and wants to make it more robust, opportunities to mediate disputes, to conciliate, and certainly to do conflict resolution more directly and provide supervisors, new sergeants, new supervisors on the civilian side, the tools and skills. Conflict resolution is not something that, in my experience, is inherent in any supervisor. There are ways to teach that, and that's why we're consulting with outside experts who have actually done this training to do that.
Mr. Inspector General, the reference to the Ombuds Office, do you have any comments about that? Is that as part of what's currently going on? Or I don't think that's referenced in the report, but I could be wrong about that.
I think this is concerns that we've shared with the department. I think the department has shared some of those as well, so that they want to find a more broad-based program that's going to reach out to more of its officers that are involved in these types of conflicts. And then the discussions that we had with the department is that Ombudsman is probably not working as well as it could be in addressing some of those issues. And I think that's addressed in part by the department's realization that there needs to be a larger platform, a broad-based solution to the situation.
Thank you. It seems to me it would make sense, and this goes without saying perhaps, that in the closed session discussion in January, that we also talk about that, the current Ombuds Office, because it seems to me, looking at it simplistically, if the Ombuds Office is working effectively, I'm not sure we would be having so much attention on the mediation program. I could be wrong about that. So, I appreciate we can't get into a lot of detail.
And if I could just say, I'm not seeming to suggest that the Ombuds would be a substitution to the potential for some formal mediation process, but is certainly something that is helpful and something that I and my staff are digging into and evaluating and looking at how it would fit in with an overall strategy.
Thank you. Just two more questions. Also on page 7, the last paragraph, the first sentence is, newly submitted employment-related claims for damages are not investigated by either LAD or the OCA and are rejected automatically. I'd like to understand that better. I'm not sure who I'm asking, but I
think I can explain that. In order to file a claim alleging harassment, discrimination, or retaliation under certain statutes, for example, under state statutes, you have to exhaust certain administrative remedies, meaning you have to file a claim with the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, DFEH. With them, in order to proceed, you must get a right to sue letter issued by them, And then typically what you have to do with the city is you have to file a claim for damages. And then once that is denied, then the clock starts running to file a formal lawsuit in Superior Court. It's very common that when people have litigation in mind, that they submit a claim to the DFEH, but they request a right to sue without any investigation by that commission. And they typically get that within a short period of time. Then they file the claim for damages. The city attorney's policy is that for claims for damages, because it's difficult to assess the value of the case, et cetera, without engaging in broader discovery, that they just simply routinely reject that. Then the plaintiff has exhausted their administrative remedies. If they in fact file a lawsuit, and they don't always do that, then they would engage in discovery to find out what the circumstances are and evaluate the case and see if there's any liability or what the risk is. In the department, whenever a lawsuit is filed that is alleging conduct by an LAPD employee, so that would qualify whether it's a use of force or a workplace issue, that generates a complaint investigation by Internal Affairs, and they go and they investigate it. And that happens at the claim stage, so there is an investigation. However, the denial of the claim is a determination by the city attorney's office. Now, I will say that since I joined, we are in discussion with the city attorney's office to see if during that time period that's an opportunity perhaps for a formal mediation or some other process. But that's still being discussed, and that's how it would go. That's how it goes, which is not, in terms of the legal process, is not unusual, nor, and there are reasons on both sides why that would occur.
And thank you. That's very helpful. I think I understand that better now. And so the rest of that paragraph, or the last sentence of that paragraph, so the top of page 8, the department agrees that this practice must change and believes that the best approach is for the LAD and OCA staff to work together on these investigations. Is that what you were just referencing? Or?
Yes, partially. There may be circumstances where, well, there are two factors. One is that the Internal Affairs group will be doing an investigation as part of the workplace investigations, and they're looking at, was there misconduct, violation of policy, as they should. We're also looking at, are there ways to coordinate that to also look at broader liability if there was a broader issue involved that needs to be corrected, or opportunities to lessons learned, et cetera. So my office is working much closer with them on that. In terms of investigating or doing something with OCA staff, this is really about, okay, should we look at some other option rather than simply deny the claim and use that opportunity to do something. But investigations do occur. We're looking at how they occur, and are there ways to assess liability earlier rather than through formal discovery.
Thank you. And unlike other parts of the report, there isn't a date, 3 months, 6 months, but can I assume that in this same 3 to 6 month period, we are likely to see some progress?
Yes, I think what you'll see, especially when I do my presentation on the 16th, is how this issue will be generally addressed, and I can certainly update the Commission on that within that time period.
Those are my comments. I do, and questions. I appreciate it. I do think, I have a suggestion for my colleagues that on the assumption we approve this report, which includes asking for quarterly reports, that we suggest to the Inspector General and to Mr. Alicon that you want to combine into one quarterly report these issues with the risk management issues. That certainly would make sense to me. I don't want to tell you how to do things, but I know we're the ones that asked for them separately initially, which is why we're here and why we'll be back on the 16th. But it would make sense to me to combine the two, and if we're going to approve the report, I would suggest we include that.
Yeah, I would very much appreciate that. In fact, I had a brief conversation with Mr. Bustamante before the meeting indicating that I would be requesting that. Employment litigation is one part of an overall risk management issue and strategy, and so I'm more than happy to incorporate that in whatever quarterly reports I'm asked to do.
On each of the recommendations, there's a response. The department expects to be in full compliance. The department is evaluating the mediation program. The department is convening a litigation committee. The department, blah, blah, blah. Are there different people? In other words, are you assigning different people to different tasks here?
Yes. I mean, it all depends on what. There are specific issues that relate, let's say, just to employment litigation. There's specific issues that relate to our liability management in terms of.
But if one of these if there isn't progress on one specific one of these, in your mind, there's somebody to talk to about it. It isn't just this big blur of the department.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Okay,
In fact, as we've submitted to the Inspector General, there are very specific tasks that we're looking at, even just within one division,
Good.
about guidebooks and things like
Yeah,
that.
good.
And we have a very detailed assignment and task list, project planning on that. So it's not the monolithic department.
Any other questions? Do you want to make the motion with the
Yes,
and the merger?
I move we approve the item and request that the Department Inspector General return on this issue quarterly, and that this issue be combined with the quarterly risk management report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on item number 9, public comment period. We have 3 comment cards. We have Mr. Herman, Jerry Dietrich, and Bill Watkins.
So the fact of the matter is, on item 8B, old business now, I may have this portion of discussion, is that the audit really didn't suffice what we're trying to understand. Obviously, there's a lot more education needed, not within the public, but also within this commission to accept the proposal of this audit based on the Inspector General. However, I am still optimistic. And again, the way the city of Los Angeles and many administrative officials today participate in the contributions of litigation for millions of dollars of your tax, hard-working dollars be paid in settlements, I find it very disruptive and a lack of commitment to leadership. So I forward my optimistic, irrelevant conversation to all of you today, and that is this: get on the job and clarify all the most important issues and points that the public is asking. For the so-called justice system in Batman's realm is not irrelevant. It's based on the guidelines of what we have here: integrity, ethics, and role models, Mr. De La Guerra, that we continue to promote public interest in not just our own action of our views on justice and government, but overall to satisfy your constituents and represent the state of California and the most optimistic and relevant point of view for us to be heard under
Jerry
First Amendment
Dietrich,
right.
please.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jerry Dietrich, and I'm with the LAPD Stop Spying Coalition. I've been coming to these meetings, and a couple of weeks ago, Vice President Madison requested information on which PD employees are working for whom, where, and whatever. And I don't know if this has been responded to Vice President Madison, but I would like to know if it will ever be available to the public. Because when people talk to me, I want to know where their priorities lie. You know, like say they're working for some big brother, then I don't know if they're going to be helping on this. So anyhow, I just would like to say that I agree with Madison that is important to know, and I would like to know it too as part of the public. My last comment is to remind the Commission that we do not want the LAPD to use drones. Thank you.
Bill Watkins.
Morning.
Morning. I got tall. For the chief, please. Thanks. Good morning. Hi, Chief, and everybody. Thanks for having me. So I guess I'll give another copy of this to the chief. Just cleaning up an issue. I made a complaint against the lead officer from Hollenbeck, who's retired. And I do feel like the letter and what the work that was done on this kind of made him feel good going out, and it sort of left short my end of the complaint. So the chief was supposed to have received the original letter, actually. When I came, I think 3 weeks ago, someone should have given your office or you that just to work on, look at, because your name's on it, the mayor's name's on it, Martin Besa over at Hollenbeck's name's on it. It's not a huge issue, but then again, it is about speaking the truth and having integrity, as someone just mentioned. So, anyways, please work on that. I come with a minister hat today. I do a ministry called churchofmary.org, if you want to look it up. I appreciate everyone's effort. I don't discriminate based on a uniform how someone should act. I think we all just got to do our best. As Mr. Soboroff mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we're just going to keep working and doing our best, everybody, citizen and people wearing suits and people wearing uniforms. So I wish and I pray for everyone to keep working on things. And the old stuff still works. Turn the other cheek. Stuff that you find in old books we swear on in court. The commandment of not killing people. I'll tell you one thing on that. We never will know the future, not one of us. So I hope in training we continue to look at the fact that everybody can change, even that person having a really bad day waving a gun around. Let's please protect and serve them. They're probably our most important citizens. Thank you.
We have no other comment cards. We're now on item number 10, closed session. The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item number 10A in accordance with Government Code 54957.
Property theft has spiked in the area the past year due to easy access for thieves. Almost 80% of car theft occurs because of unlocked doors. Locking your doors takes a matter of seconds and can become so routine that you may forget whether you locked your doors or not. But it's worth the effort to double check. The more successful thieves are at taking items out of a car, the more chances they are going to come back to that area. Don't let our town be that area. One simple precaution is to hide or cover any valuable items when leaving your car unattended. Simple actions like these can prevent you from becoming a victim of property theft. The Los Angeles Police Department would like you to remember, lock it or lose it.
Hi, this is Carretero Family.
We are from East Los Angeles, Boyle Heights. You're watching Channel 35, our city, our channel.